Final presentation this morning is a panel on 2 decades of lean project delivery. Moderating the panel is Julia DeRossi of Mortensen, and joining her are Klaus Lemke of Median, John Matuska of Ruby and Associates, and Rob Wagner of Procter & Gamble. Please join me in welcoming our panel to the stage.
Aim it at you guys or aim it here? Okay, thank you. I'm Rob Wagner, and with Procter & Gamble, as you said, my esteemed colleagues here are all part of our lean team, as we have as our sprint team. And so what we've done is we've looked at the last 20 years, and what it is 20 years ago, there was a presentation made by Kurt, created a white paper, they did a workshop, and everything on the introduction of lean to the Kurt community. So we decided to look at that presentation, that white paper that was written, and look at it and say, did it really come true? Everything we wrote 20 years ago, did it happen? Is it pertinent today? Is it relevant in 2026 and beyond? And so we decided to go and summate that and create a paper. So this is a summary of what we have in the paper. We'll be producing it, I believe, in the next month or so with Kurt. They're going to be editing it for final edit and get it out to us. So basically, let's see now. Anything that stands out? I don't think so. I mean, we had a committee created, we had a workshop, we did the paper, everything, so traditionally of what Kurt would end up doing. So, the uses of lean delivery. What we have, I don't want to read the words off of there directly, but basically, we're looking at to see over the last 20 years what changed. What is our capability? Has the environment, has our industry changed a whole lot? And what do we need to go and do, if anything, to change? Is it still the same priority? So we now have this 20 years under our belts, which, if you think about it, that's someone's potentially their whole career in engineering or in construction. And so we have one generation beyond. And so do we need to make a correction and data, et cetera? So this is what we were looking at as our team. So there were questions that were challenged, and these questions were, what can owners do to provide lean? What can, not supervisors, but what can design companies, engineering companies support? What can they go and do to support lean? And then also, what can researchers like CII, et cetera, what can they go and do? How can they go and help support us to get towards lean? So those are the questions that were posed back in '07. We decided to review those again and see what can owners go and do, what can construction services companies do, what can contractors deliver, and then also what researchers needed to continue to do to support. Yeah, so what we ended up looking at was who owns what. And so if you look off on the immediate right-hand side there, you'll see that this is what owners should be doing, this is what designers and contractors should be doing, and then this is what researchers would. The bottom left-hand corner, we talk about what everybody should be doing in lean. So this is how we ended up looking at what is our responsibilities as a community, and Kurt here, and as a community in the AEC, the architectural engineering construction world. owners should. This is a list of things that owners should go and do. I represent an owner, and what I feel is that we need to be the emphasis, the focal point to make sure that lean happens. Out in the world, at the end of the day, we're the ones paying the dollars. So if we want lean to happen, we should pay for that, and we should ensure that it happens, and everyone should support it. The actions of our designers obviously impact us significantly, and they should be recommending. And so if I go to the next slide, it would talk about what design services and contractors should do. And they really should be coming back to us with ideas on how to get lean, what we need to do for lean, what they view, and then we should be able to go and support that. As an owner, part of, getting back to my owner thing there, as a part of the owners, it's my responsibility to go up our ladder as well. So we need to convince, my organization, my leadership at P&G to go and actually engage. So the contractors and service providers are great ideas for me and giving me information that I can go back up and sell this to leadership. So it is all partnering is what it's all about, collaboration. So then researchers, of course, CI was a major researcher in all things construction, and we have several different companies here that they're either owner, they provide references for owners, they can represent the owner and all this. So the researchers in it should go and also push towards having lean. And now the question comes is, do we really want to have lean? And so do we? And the answer at the end of this whole presentation is going to be yes. It's still pertinent today. But findings from the workshop. So 2007, there was a workshop. I think if you read the statements there, you'll see that pretty much if I was holding a workshop tomorrow, they would be the same things that would be up there. Those are the type of activities that occurred. It was all pertinent. It still is today. So what has worked? We believe that lean has worked. There's the benefits of the management. We're working towards, let's see, some of the things over there would be training. Training has worked really well. How do you get people to understand? You got to train them. You got to train people on what lean is about. Have to have them have a good understanding. My analogy in my meeting yesterday was I talk about golfing. Golfing is a very simple game. It seems to be very difficult to master, okay? I want to kind of compare that to lean. Everybody looks at lean and goes, oh, I understand that, I get it, and they right away want to rush off and hit that ball down the fairway. The thing is you need to make sure that you are following the rules, and it does seem simple, but it is fairly complex in its execution, and you can easily go down a rabbit hole or veer off course, just like you can in golf. So, have our priorities changed? I think not. If anything, they've probably gotten more sharper. The priorities to go and do lean. We talk about most of these today are productivity improvements. What does lean do? We talk about waste. Lean is a methodology to get rid of waste in terms of delivery. What does also lean do? Lean creates relationships. So relationships, I feel, create better productivity versus if you look at a design bid build, it instantaneously is almost becoming adversarial from the day one. As an owner, I issue the PO, and almost the very next day I get a change order. So it's that type of mentality that occurs versus in lean, we're working together. And so when we have a big room, we sit down, we see everyone, and my experience has been is that the majority of the people in the lean, in the big room, end up actually, they don't work for a company anymore, it seems. They work for the project, and everybody works to help each other, which is collaborative in nature, and that's what we should be doing. In order to be productive, we need to be collaborative. If we are adversarial, we're not. We're So, factors preventing lean. One of the things is I had a statement in one of our papers just starting to put out there is that design bid build is pretty much the standard of the way things were done. And in the last 20 years, it hasn't gone away. Design bid build has not gone away. And you think, well, wait a minute, lean is so much better, my opinion, Why hasn't lean totally eradicated the reason for delivering in design, bid, build? And the reason are, there's several, and some of them are up there. People don't like change, is one. People are very adverse to change. A lot of it is written in if you do, I'm a private company or work for a private company, so public projects tend to be very staid and there's legal tied to them and all kinds of things. So design, bid, build is the standard, and it seems to be more prevalent still, and it takes a while for lean or new technologies to get into it. So what is lean? Have projects lost their humanness? We talked that significantly as a team, and we're actually having another paper that we're writing to talk about that. So next door, I just came from an AI presentation, and they're talking about tools. It's apps, tools, and different types of checklists and stuff. That is not lean. That could be parts of lean, but that is not what lean delivery is about. Lean delivery is the humanness. And so we're discussing as our team here, have we gone towards trying to make lean app-related, tool-based, and we've taken the human out of the equation. And so I know even next door they talked about the AI, but it has to have the human still in it. And that's what this is about. Lean is about having that human relationship, and that's how you get the project done best, is with this relationship. So, human-centric actions, the potential loss of humanity, so there are humanness within the whole process. So there are losses that occur. Underutilized employee is one within it that we looked at. And again, lean looks at losses, and that could be a loss. We have people that are idle time, so all the different aspects of construction that pop up. So why wouldn't you want to look at doing things in lean? So measures and metrics. So I think I hit everything there, but the 8 waste is actually that in lean is the underutilized employee, and that could be dwell time, that could be time to get your permits, that could be just totally underutilizing people in general. Okay. Why does a human have to endure? Well, I think you can't call it lean delivery, because right away, as soon as I say lean delivery, the very next word in the phrase is respect. And I have a respect for a tool. I'm not certain that truly is real. I have a respect for people. And so it really is lean is a person-driven, human-centric delivery methodology. And that's what we wanted to go and talk about. That's what they said in '07, and that's what we're saying today in 2026. So it still is valid. So back to my comment. Is it valid in 2026? The answer is yes. Does the humans matter? Yes. Do we need to be friendly at the end of our project? My upper management, and probably yours too, doesn't care about that much, but I think it matters because that's how we get business done. Going back to what Pete had talked about in his neighborhood, this is the Prairie Dog group, and Pete talks about being in your neighborhood. And that's what this is all about. I want people in my neighborhood, I want people in my yard, I want people in my house. And so that's what he is building, and that is, I won't say, he's not saying that's lean, I think, directly, but that is what lean is about. Lean is about making sure that you have the right people around you and get things done, and you build relationships. So I'm gonna then go to the panel here, and so I'll have you come up and start to moderate, and we'll take questions.
So a couple things just to ground us. Yesterday we heard about the economy and the state of our industry as a whole and the need for people, as well as the trying to figure out a way to not have so much resource dependence. One of the stats that in general stands out to me is that we have a $177 billion rework problem in the construction industry. And so some of that is through rush decisions, not getting it right, not really thinking about things going forward. Klaus, I'm going to start with you. At the highest level, when you think about lean principles and processes in the past 20 years, what do you think are the biggest takeaways that have really worked, and what can actually continue to move forward from your perspective?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to believe I've been here for most of that journey in the construction industry and in the world of lean construction. I think about, 20 years ago when lean was a movement, right? It was people who recognized the industry was broken and wanted to fix it, right? And they realized that the fix came from connecting people and building trust in teams so they could perform at a higher level. And out of that came things like the last planner system, IPD contracts, right? They were all tools that were serving that purpose of connecting people and building stronger teams. And I think a big part of the industry is still moving forward with those things, and they're absolutely effective. There's another part of the industry that's kind of like, yep, last planner system, IPD, those are tools, but they don't really expect anything to be different, right? So they're applying the tools without really the root of building trust and building stronger teams. And I think those efforts tend to fall flat. So it's almost like there's two paths, right? The people who really want to change the industry, solve the rework problem, solve the labor shortage, all those things, and using the tools as a means to an end. And then there's people who are just kind of using the tools that really don't have that outcome in mind. And I mean, they're dramatically different results based on what your mindset is going into it, from an owner, a contractor, trade contractor, designer. So really, to me, the stuff that really is consistent, that has really made the difference, is sticking with that core purpose of making teams work better together with more trust to remove the friction. And that's been successful and a growing trend over the last 20 years.
Thanks. Oftentimes when we think of the AEC, or I should say OAEC, because Robert pointed out how important the owner is in kind of setting the tone. When we think about this industry, it's siloed but capable in many ways. And so a similar question for you, John, of what are the more nuanced day-to-day activities that you have seen change in the past 20 years, and what can we continue to move forward?
Yeah, so I'm a structural engineer, so I'm on the design side. How many other designers are in the room? Only one, okay. I might rip on you a bit, so. But, Klaus hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of tools, valuable tools involved in a lean project. But the biggest thing to me as a designer over the last 20 years is a mindset. At the end of the day, it's our job to help an owner put a capital asset in place so that they can start making money in it. And I see, and the AEC industry has been set up over the past 50, 70 years as a siloed industry. And a lot of that is to push risk to appropriate locations. And as designers, I see a lot of the mindset that my deliverable is a set of drawings. And your deliverable as a designer should be an occupied structure. And over the past 20 years, I've seen a lot of that erode, but there's still a lot of that sense that, the engineer or the designer, their end goal is to produce a set of drawings. And there's construction administration, but a true lean project, it's a mindset that we're here to work with collaboration in the mindset, work with the entire team to efficiently put a capital asset in place. And some of that has changed over the past 20 years. One of the big things that's come up, not just early in this presentation, but in other presentations, is for lean to work, there needs to be trust throughout the team. And that needs to start at the top with the owner and the builder. And over the past 20 years, I've seen a lot of owners and builders recognize this. And the old general contractor mentality of, beat the crap out of all your subs and not treat them as partners, that's going away. It's still mildly prevalent, but I've seen a lot of advancement in those areas. So the biggest thing, the tools are important, they're necessary, but the biggest thing to me is a lean mindset, a collaborative mindset.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And for those of you that don't know me, I'm Julia DeRossi, and I was a former owner. And now I'm on the construction side, and a lot of things, I'm head nodding to, because now working for a contractor, you kind of get to peek behind the curtain and how much respect there is for trade partners in the industry. It can't just be you need to go work faster. And even as an owner, you need to become the owner of choice. You have to work hard because there's more work than people. And so being an attractive owner is something definitely to work on. Rob, next question for you. And this one is new. He doesn't know what I'm about to ask him. So there's this principle called the Parkinson's Law, which essentially is that work expands to fill the time. And it's a natural, human behavior and tendencies. So AKA, we all work well against deadlines. If the deadline is March 15th, we all meet March 15th. If it's April 15th, we all work, it continues to expand, whether there's waste in that time frame or we just pile on more work. Can you talk about the culture that you have set at Procter & Gamble and how difficult it is to shift behaviors and kind of your journey?
Yeah, the first thing is when you want to introduce lean, it is a culture change, excuse me, to the whole business. So how do you build culture? Culture is typically built over between a 1 to 2 year or longer period. So that takes time. So like speed of trust, Stephen Covey, we need to build that trust very quickly, and we have to understand that because the project is on a timeline. The other one too that I've seen is you talk about, it's like I'm staying busy, which is not really, which is not really what you want to do. You want to go and provide productivity improvement, and the other thing about lean is it's a continuous improvement. So therefore, you may have just finished what you're doing, but is there any learnings coming back out of that you can play back into the equation and learn how to do it better? Some of the waste that I've seen that I see going away. We have a CDS, collaborative design session. Everybody gets together, which is going to be part of the objective of delivery. So let's say we're going to install a machine. Well, so I have the electricians there, I have the mechanics there and everything, and I have the designers in the room. And so about 4 years ago, I'm hearing grumblings in the room from the designers. And they're like, well, I'm a CAD operator. You're taking work away from me. I'm billable hours, and you're saying I got to work with the electrician now and get input from them, and kind of thing. It's like I said, well, wait a minute now. Your owner, the owner of the design firm, is wanting this because you're not going away. You're going to go to another job as soon as you get this one done, kind of thing. And so, do we really need that stack of papers, drawings that you just said? Do I need all 1,000 drawings, or is some of it just just next door here? 90% of data is not looked at, and I agree with it. 90% of the data that we get as an owner, no one looks at it, but it had to be there or something. So it's charged, it's money, it's effort. So I think about the 8 wastes in that regard. So there's a whole bunch of paradigms that have to be broken, kind of thing. And so the guys understood it. But it's really the owners of the company. And so when we start off on a design project, we actually bring the CFO and the CEO of our GC company in, because we have to determine with them and tell them, it's open book, it's profit-based. This is for an IFOA contract, so where you have the shared profit contract. And they have to agree to it. The owner of the company and the chief financial officer has to agree that this is what they want to do. If they don't, then we're not going to do that. You know what I mean? And I can't ask their electricians to come in and do this at that point. But you bring the right people in at the right time. So when we get to the CDS, we bring in the right people. I have also encouraging people to go to LCI, to go to the coffees and do all of that. I've gone to a coffee in Cincinnati, and they had unionized electricians. They stood up and they're like, we have never been asked for our opinion until this project. And they were like, wow, we want more of that. I mean, they're standing up there going, okay, everybody's hearing that. And that's what you need to hear about, is that relationship and building of that trust. So I don't know if that answers exactly.
That's great. I mean, I love that. I think time is a gift, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
it is.
wasting someone's time on one end is completely, how many people complain about wasteful engagements and meetings? And on the other hand, of actually reaching out to the folks that might have input as to a better way to do it, right? John, lots of talk on AI. It's almost like AI has replaced the three-letter acronym of BIM nowadays, right? It used to all be BIM, BIM, BIM. How do you see BIM and AI entering into this equation? Do you think it's helpful, or do you think it's going to be information overload?
I think it's, I guess, honestly, I bristle sometimes when I talk about, or when I hear, all the discussion around AI in construction. And I remember 25 years ago plus, the new thing was BIM. And I've seen a lot of cases where, the owner demands, we need BIM, the builder wants BIM. And all it is a pretty picture. And we have the most powerful tool at our disposal, a model. We can build the project on the computer before we go out in the field and make all the mistakes out there. And a lot of times, we keep talking about drawings. We're structural engineers only, but we've got architecture and MEP partners, and ask them, what do you use your model for? Well, just to produce drawings. And this isn't every project. Some of them, there's a true VDC effort, but all the talk about AI, and we've blown past maybe the most important tool we have, the BIM model, and getting the level of detail that's most advantageous in that BIM model and building it on the computer before we get out in the field. AI, in one of the presentations yesterday, they listed AI adoption in construction. Certainly contract document review, information and accessibility, process optimization, accounting, billings, lots of great uses for it. But, we rely on AI for the shrimp scampi recipe, like somebody mentioned yesterday, or is my dog sick? And where are those responses coming from? It's information that AI is harvesting from the internet. And our potential over-reliance on AI to provide us these answers, we were just talking about it before getting up here, is there going to come a point where we rely on it so much and the information that it's drawing from is not 100% correct or not the best solution? So I think it's great. I'll go back to the models and lean. I'm a structural engineer, so we serve as the structural engineer of record on a project. And we produce drawings or a model, and what happens to those? They're given to a fabricator to bid. The fabricator then gives them to a detailer, who then gives them to a connection designer, who then, all the RFIs that come back. We've got a model as the structural engineer of record, but a lot of times, contractual obligations, we're not allowed to give it to the fabricator. So the fabricator has to get the detailer to build their own model. Nothing about that whole process is lean. One of the programs we've developed over the past 20 years is we do the structural design and we produce a shop fabrication model. So there's only one model. It's combined with the other designers' models is the one source of truth. But when we do that, and one of the things that John Menke, I don't think he's in here, if anyone attended his presentation on the sources of waste, and I took a picture of his slide, but one of the sources is contractual hurdles. When we are the structural engineer of record and we say, yeah, we're gonna produce a shop fabrication drawing model, the architect's like, whoa, you're not working for me. I don't want that under my liability. And the builder says, no, if your contract's not going to be with us, you're going to have to work for the fabricator. So a lot of those contractual things that are hurdles we need to get over, just with respect to BIM and AI, the construction industry really needs to take a hard look at what are we adding value to with the contracts. And David's here. I talked to him yesterday a lot about insurance, but some of the things that are going to restrict us in our use of BIM models and AI are things that are necessary but don't necessarily add value to the project.
I'd like to weigh in a little bit on the technology AI thing, and I think there's a part of it that I'm very excited about because of all the power and the potential, and really potential of removing burden from human beings, right? The things that we don't want to do, AI can do for us. But I think about, we're consciously giving up certain skills when we adopt technology. If anyone's ever been in the car with me, I have zero sense of direction, and I don't need it, right? I've used Google Maps for years. I can't tell you the name of the street out here. I'm lucky if I can tell you the name of the street that I live on, and it doesn't matter, right? The technology has replaced that for me. We all used to be able to memorize dozens and dozens of phone numbers if you're as old like I am, right? It's a skill we no longer need. And I think that's great, right? Giving up those skills, being able to read an analog clock, being able to multiply, 7 times 4. Like, maybe we don't need those skills because technology can do it for us, and it's always with us, right? So that problem is easy to kind of get my head around. What I think about is, are we giving up the skill of relating with other human beings? I look at my email inbox, and how many of those emails are generated by someone's AI note taker, right? And how long before my AI email reader will respond for me, right? And maybe that's okay. I think we talked about this earlier. If you've worked on large projects, anyone worked on a project with a P6 schedule that has 5,000 or more line items on it? Can anyone understand the flow of work on that job, right? And we've given up on it. If you look at the schedule for the Empire State Building, it was a one-page piece of paper, right? And everyone on the job could understand the flow. So I think, are we ready to give up understanding, say, the flow on the job in exchange for a technology that will tell us what we're supposed to do today? And that's the part, when I think about the teamwork side, that gets a little scary, and I don't know if AI will solve that problem for us. But that's thinking consciously, what are we giving up when we adopt this new technology as a team?
No, that's great. And joining Mortensen, they have a strong commitment to lean, and they talk a lot about managing flow and not just outcomes. We talked about information and data, how much it's not looked at. It's the procurement process, it's the design process, and making sure that everyone gets to know it. But I was chuckling about your phone number. How many people know the next 4 digits of 867? 5309, yes. Yes, it's very true. And I think it's a great lead up on the contractual side. I mean, I love our attorneys. They keep us all out of trouble. But from a contractual standpoint, Klaus, where do you think, are we there with contracting an IPD or IPD-ish? Or where are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think in 20 years, contracting is probably the thing that's changed the most. I think everyone knows what an IPD contract is. There are several formats out there that are easy. We're working on projects that are $20 million that are using consensus docs, standard, IPD agreements. But I think even more so, like the traditional contracts have options and clauses that are much more around the collaborative approach to building a building. So I think the contracting part used to be a big hurdle, and today it's a lot easier. There's still, like, if you've never done an IPD with your team, there's still, the lawyers and the insurance agents and the bonding companies will all have a say about it, and they'll be nervous about it. But there's a standard there that we know works, that you can grab off the shelf that's easy to implement. So I think that's been a huge plus for people that are playing in that world, whether it's a full IPD or they're just looking to apply some IPD concepts to their next project.
I agree. I mean, I think we're, earlier Robert was talking about, design, bid, build. It's never design, bid, build. It's design, bid, sticker shock, value engineer, which is neither driving value or engineering, repackaging, frustrating, showing the owner something they can't afford, and so it's repackaging it. And so how many lessons learned do we need to get to the point to get to an IPD land?
I want to comment on the contracts because one of the things is, the IFOA contract, which is the shared profit and all, it ends up, I believe it's somewhere north of 100 pages, if not 200 pages of legalese, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a standard, but that's a big contract. And so within even Procter & Gamble, I mean, Greg Fox used to be purchasing, they won't touch a contract with construction under $10 million. So our purchasing group within our company says, we're not even going to
entertain it. It's too much effort. Yet, I go to Lima plant, which is our Tide plant. We have an IFOA contract with a mom and pop, 3-person company for $40,000. IFOA contract for $40,000, and it is 2 pages. Purchasing denies that that's an IFOA, our purchasing, but we're like, no, it is. And our CMO, which in this case is one of the major construction companies in North America here, they negotiated with this mom and pop shop. They had a 2-page contract on how they can do it, profit per share, and they successfully delivered this $40,000 project. The TVD was $32,000. They delivered at $32,000. We normally would have paid $40,000 for the job. They got $4,000 profit on a $32,000 job, and we got $4,000 back as cash. We paid $36,000 at the end of the day, and that's what it's all about. What you just said, it is about completing the project. We did a tank rebuild for $36,000 when we normally would have paid $40,000. So we got a good deal. And the mom and pop shop was like ecstatic because we've never made $4,000 profit on a $30,000 job, you know, kind of thing. So it does work. It really is, and it doesn't have to be that 200-page. But again, trust. There was a big trust in there in them doing that 2-page contract. But it is, you know, it doesn't have to still be that. There's still room for improvement, right? It's continuous improvement in lean IPD, right?
Well, some of those opportunities are never even realized because there's 200 pages of either it's too scary or it's too long to read, and you pass it up as an opportunity.
And it's all about moving that risk around. I think you talked about where do you move the risk to, or who's willing to take it, kind of thing.
And I'll just add, I think the prevalence of IPD, and again, it's a small percentage of projects that are done under IPD, but the fact that they're out there in the industry has changed the way teams are organized. We do a lot of work with, I guess I would say, large projects, and whether they're an IPD or a design bid build or a CM at risk, we always create a core team, and we create project execution teams, and we create a project charter. All those are things that come from an IPD mindset. Whether you're an IPD agreement or not, you can still do all those things. And it changes the governance and how the team works together on every project.
So yesterday, we had the session with lean. So one of the questions came up, like, I work Procter & Gamble, said, is Procter & Gamble lean? You know, what percentage? And I'm like, well, I'm 100% lean in family care. There is no discussion. And you're not going to work for family care unless you are a lean company, lean delivery. But lean delivery can be lean IPD, but it can be, so I shared a document that showed it's like a speedometer. And it says, what level of lean are you executing in? So one of the bases is this whole humanness, this trust, this respect. That's the basis. So everything we do is lean, but it doesn't necessarily have the IFOA in it. It doesn't necessarily have, and you pick and choose to make sure to what degree of lean are you getting to, and everything we do is in that mentality, that mindset. It's not, so we are doing, just like Yoda says, just do, you know.
It's amazing too when you have like a critical deadline, or you get the adult supervision, or there's some kind of crisis, black swan event, on how much all of the layers of bureaucracy are eliminated rather quickly of trying to get something done, right? You know, we've all seen a high-performing team go forward, and they might have not had all the tools and the resources at their disposal, but it is that mindset and how people work together to get things done. So final question for all three of you. Robert, we'll start with you and work our way down. So yesterday was Groundhog Day. I was really unhappy with the results. I don't know about the rest of you guys.
Shadow.
I mean, Orlando at this temperature, yeah, not okay with that. But he did see his shadow. So question for all of you, do you think lean has more shadows or sunshine in its future? And if you could elaborate as to what we need to be more aware of, like our own shadows. What are some of the things in our own shadows that we need to look out for?
As an owner, we have shadows in our company as upper leadership. They don't understand lean. Lean is a fairly simplistic process to hear and talk about, but you can quickly go astray or misunderstand. Like in golf, I can go off in the rough quickly, you know. So it's an easy game to play, but it's hard. So as the owner, it's my responsibility. I have two directions. You know, I got to go up in our company, and I got to go down. well, not down, parallel peers, everything else to go and make it happen. So, so I need the help. So I think it's positive. I see more and more, but I do hear some things happen that are detrimental, and then that kind of like, this OU is not going to be doing lean anymore because they had this happen. It's like, well, wait a minute now, you're kind of like drawing a line in the sand. That's not really it. Understand the root cause and then fix it. I told my group back in 2017 for construction of family care, which is Bounty, Charmin, Puffs, we're doing lean. Lima, which is tied, has already done lean. We are 2 years behind them. We do not need 2 years. We need to run. And I said, run. We need to run with lean and get things going as quickly as possible. We have the models. We know what the Tide did and all this. So let's just continue to do that. We did trip. We did fall. I put that in the paper. And even my managers, I let them read it. And they said, hey, this is cool. You even admitted it. But we got up and went again. You do not give up. I think it's positive. And again, if I truly believe in the fact that it's a human-centric process, it is. I do, and I have to. So it's positive. Thank you.
Great.
I'd say partly cloudy, mostly sunny. I don't know what the difference is. But, we've got our biggest client, I won't say who it is, but 15, 20 years ago, they were a big part of Kurt. And they were the most progressive owner, most progressive client we had. And we did a massive design build job for them in 2015, and that moved into IPD for some huge projects in 2019. And just due to the makeup of that company, a lot of layoffs, different people in purchasing, different people in the facilities management group, they became a little more paranoid and said, no, we need 3 bids, we're going back to the old method. So, that's a step back, but pulling them back forward to the, a collaborative mindset, we'll get there. At the same time, we've had doing some huge healthcare jobs out on the West Coast. They're a little more progressive, embracing lean concepts. So I think overall as an industry, we've got sunny days ahead.
Great, thank you. And you'd make a great weatherman, by the way.
Pardon?
You would make a great weatherman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I think definitely more sunshine than clouds ahead. I think people recognize that when they work together. I mean, if you've ever worked on a project that was just awesome and fun and successful, people want to create that again. And those are the principles that lean is built on, right? The connectedness. I think the clouds or the shadows are probably the risk of thinking that we don't need each other. Right, and this happens in construction as maybe as well as it does in society, right? When an owner says, I don't care if my electrical contractor is profitable or not, I'm just going to turn the screws and get what I want out of them. Like, that might work once. And owners have paid the price for that over years. General contractors have paid the price for that. So as much as that shadow is kind of always there, that looking for a quick fix, looking to take advantage of someone else, I think holistically as a people, we know we do better together, and I think projects do better together, and that's the driving force that will kind of continue to push lean forward.
Great, thank you. Any questions? Yep, we have a few minutes here.
Comment on the question you just had. I have a peculiar experience. That is to say, I'm an insurance underwriter and I write project policies.
He's got a microphone for you.
Hi, I'm Dave Pacifici from Berkeley, WR Berkeley, Berkeley Construction Professional. I have an interesting experience that's relevant to your question and is on point. So my team and myself, we write professional liability insurance for contractors and owners. I have personally either written, quoted, I didn't get all of them, but I can tell you, Bannister Healthcare in Scottsdale, University of California, San Francisco in both San Francisco project, which is now vertical, as well as the pending project in Oakland. University of Nebraska Medical Center, they're having a project that's starting. Penn in the East had a big project in Philly that's been followed up with 3 more modest-sized projects in Princeton and 2 in suburban Philadelphia. The automakers, the major American makers did at least 3 EV battery cell projects using IPD here in the United States, and another one in Canada. The star of the IPD universe is Sutter Health. I have a slide from the LCI conference from a year and a half ago in San Diego that since 2008, they delivered $4.5 billion worth of projects, over 30 projects, without going over budget. So the thing is that there are a lot of projects out there, and not just healthcare, although that is a focus, that are using, and when I say IPD, I mean a full IPD contract with a waiver of liability at least until project completion and an at-risk profit pool. That's the reason I'm sitting in this room, is that this is an opportunity. You know, we've developed products for it. I'm not going to make this a commercial, but in answer to your first question, I gave you 8 to 10 data points that say that it's not just 1 or 2 projects a year.
No, I appreciate that. I mean, I think in general, right, there are tools out there, and like we can actually be agnostic to all sorts of contracting. I mean, it really does come down to the mindset, the amount of paperwork and clauses that are included. It really does come down to the team and the purpose behind the project.
Okay, we got time for one more.
One more. So thanks so much for this session. So Texas A&M, Zofia Bukowski, we've been doing, very interested in IPD and lean. The question is that from time to time, you know, we hear things like in the session we heard this morning where one of the speakers said IPD was a dirty word. And that was kind of alarming. And of course, the facilitator kind of said, well, no, actually, a lot of people see it as being a wonderful thing, right? So I guess the question is, why is there a perception sometimes that something as wonderful as collaboration would be perceived as being negative? In fact, it was just the opposite. Do you think there's a possibility that some people kind of say, oh, I already do that, and they don't realize that they maybe themselves are doing it, but the entire organization is not doing it. I mean, I just wonder, what is it that's making people feel that it's a negative thing when it's actually so overwhelmingly positive?
John was talking about a large client of his that kind of went back from an integrated approach to more of a lump sum approach, and we've seen that with large companies. And what I would say is, it's probably about your horizon, right? If you're thinking about, I want my company to be successful for the next 10 years or 20 years, you can't do that alone, right? But if you're a new CEO and you've got to shave 10% off your next project, yeah, you can take that out of the hide of your trade partners easily, right? I mean, I was a general contractor for years. There's easy ways to manipulate and trick and pressure and squeeze, and that might yield a short-term result. I think a lot of the kind of momentum away from IPD is often like, yep, that last project was great, but we got to do something completely different now, and let's go back to what worked for me 20 years ago in my career. So I think if you have a short-term vision, it opens up a whole new set of possibilities. If you say it's got to work for the long term, then you got to go as a team.
I think also if you open it up, like you were saying, Klaus, now I introduce like my iron workers into the equation and get their opinion on how can I do it more efficiently? And if you're looking to cut money and all of that, I mean, they will get, and I've had that happen. I've had that happen in '94, way before lean was ever, where my iron worker gave a phenomenal suggestion that my engineers didn't even think of, and it saved us time. It was time. On projects, the big thing is time. Money is something, but time is usually schedule is driven. In this case, it was an EPA for response by January 1st. It had to be done. We were in the mid-December. So, but yeah, I think, you know, the more people you introduce to the equation and ask their question and get their opinion, the more answers you're going to have and the more possibilities. That's the thing, and that's what I like about lean. It opens it up to a group of people. Like I said, my electricians, or my electrician said, we've never been asked, you know, and well, what? You know, you have experience. You should be asked, you know, and that's what lean does. So.
All right.
All right.
Well,
Thanks. Let's thank the
Thank you.
panel.
Thank you, everybody.